travel poses unique challenges when it comes to containing infectious diseases. More than 4 billion passengers flew on airlines worldwide in 2017, potentially spreading diseases from one part of the globe to another. Even before leaving the ground, there is a risk. One of the very first things a traveler does upon arriving at an airport is check in at a kiosk. These kiosks are one of the most germ-covered surfaces encountered while traveling. They can have up to 1,400 times the bacterial and fungal cells per square inch than a household toilet seat. The very next place a flyer heads is usually the security line. 2.1 million people pass through TSA checkpoints every day, and almost all will handle the bins. If a sick passenger gets germs on one of them, hundreds or thousands of flyers may be in contact with the illness that day.
The thing about touching things is that we tend to touch things and then we later self-inoculate. Like we rub our eye, we might rub our nose, we might put our finger in our mouth, and that's when we essentially deliver the pathogen, the virus, the bacteria into our own system.
Once actually on board, the stakes change. There's a misconception that airplanes circulate air, and therefore germs, throughout the entire aircraft. But the air is only circulated in small zones and is refreshed with outside air and filtered frequently. Therefore, if a sick passenger actually gets on the plane, the greatest risk is to those in his or her immediate vicinity.
Certainly during cold and flu season, if you're close enough to somebody who's sick with one of those things, if you're in close proximity, potentially you could get infected like that. And of course measles. Measles is a really infectious virus and it floats in the air. You could see a situation where somebody could contract measles on a plane for sure.
What happens if many passengers on the flight get ill at the same time? The flight crew is required to alert the Air Traffic Control Tower and the CDC. From there, the CDC will begin to assess the situation.
There's a very rapid risk assessment that we'll do. What's the nature of the illness? What was the itinerary of the traveler that's sick, or the itinerary of the flight, right? So where did it originate? Where is it transited? Where is it going?
If necessary, the plane will make an emergency landing at the nearest airport. If it is determined to be an internationally reportable disease, like Ebola, or a disease that cannot be readily identified, the flight may taxi away from the terminal to a designated hard stand area and be temporarily quarantined. This happened in September 2018 at New York's John F. Kennedy Airport, when a flight landed after reporting a number of ill passengers.
When Emirates Airlines Flight 203 landed at JFK, dozens of ambulances and other emergency vehicles were waiting.
The passengers were screened at the hard stand area, and sick passengers were transported to nearby hospitals.
The risks may seem greater than they have before because of high-speed, high-volume global mobility. But we've also been able, I think, to become more prepared than we have ever been before in history by using really important tools, both technological tools and human resources.
It's important to be aware of how and when you could contract an illness when traveling, and to wash your hands frequently. But in the unlikely scenario you are on board an aircraft where an illness is spreading, there are strict protocols in place to safeguard you and your fellow passengers.